You and I are both slaves, and if you clicked on this video, you're probably starting to realize this. So I recently read the Bible, and in the preface there were notes on translation, and specifically the words slave and servant, and I was surprised what it said, because probably like you, I had learned about the brutal, dehumanizing, forceful slavery that we hear about through history. And it didn't really speak about that. It mentioned voluntary slavery. So in Old Testament times, slaves or people would voluntarily enter into slavery or servitude for two reasons: to avoid poverty or to pay off a debt. And that's exactly the same as what we do today. We want to avoid poverty. If you don't go to work, you don't have a roof over your head and you don't have food in your belly. And to pay off a debt. Most people have car payments and mortgages to pay. So this is the kind of slavery and servitude that's mentioned. And when you hear the word slave throughout the Bible, it's often just somebody in that's made that choice. So when you hear the word slave, we don't usually relate to that. We don't think, oh, that's me. But it is. If you work a job, you need what the slave master has to offer. So the word slave has negative connotations, and I'm not kind of trying to scare you, but that's the reality of it. And in ancient Israel, protection for all in servitude was offered by Mosaic Law, and we have that today. Employers have to pay a minimum wage, and there has to be certain work condition, that they have to live up to. So this is exactly the same. So I think people are starting to realise this, and slaves were free to leave whenever they wanted, but they needed what the slave master offered. And that's the same today. And you see this I think people are starting to wake up to this, and especially single men and women that are adopting van life. They don't want to work the job, they don't want to work as many hours, so they lower their expenditure. So they can just live in a van, they don't have a mortgage to pay, they don't have all these bills, and they have that sense of freedom. So I encourage you to adopt a kind of van life of the mind. So we'll talk about the solution of this. So consumerism is the perfection of slavery because we impose it on ourselves and we impose it on the peers around us. So we want the thing that we have to become a slave for to get, if that makes sense. And we tell our friends, oh, I got this, you should get this. And we're reinforcing it on ourselves. We are our own slave master, and we are that to other people. So we're all encouraging each other, oh, I got this new iPhone. What phone have you got? Not the latest one, you got to upgrade. Do you know what I mean? So it's perfect. It just creates this bondage around us. And you might want to escape, and I would encourage you to explore this idea. So I've got a few Bible verses related to this. We've got Proverbs 22 verse 7. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. So if you want what somebody else has, you are a slave to them. So we're cultivating the van life of the mind, the not desiring, we'll talk about it. So consumerism is predicated on a lack. You feel a lack, so you have a drive to acquire something, and you think that's going to fulfill you. And if you play that game long enough, you realize that it probably doesn't. You get the thing, but the lack's still there, so you search for the next thing. And some people spend their whole lives doing this, but you might want to get off the treadmill. So it's a cycle of work, earn, spend. It didn't work, so you repeat. You work some more, earn some more, try and get some more status, whatever it is. So it doesn't work. Consumerism isn't going to fulfill you. And you can ask yourself the question, what do I have to get for me to actually be happy and fulfilled? So for you as an individual, consumerism isn't beneficial, but it's beneficial for somebody. It's very profitable. A lot of people make a lot of money. Now, they are on the same cycle. They think if they can sell you more products, sell more iPhones, it will bring them fulfillment. And that's their own issue. Do you know what I mean? Whether or not that's fulfilling them, I don't know. They're just at a different level of the game, but they're still wanting to acquire more resources because they feel like that's going to work. So what do we do? So I would encourage you, instead of pursuing consumerism, pursue contentment. Now, Jesus talks about this a lot, and there are a lot of clues as to what we should do. But we've got Luke chapter 17, verse 21. Neither shall they say, lo here or lo there, for behold, the kingdom of God is within. So you don't have an emptiness. You don't need something to fulfill you that consumerism is going to provide. It's already within you. But we've been very confused. So it takes a bit of rewiring and uneducating from the system. And this is 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6. Godliness with contentment is great gain. So you need to cultivate contentment. And if you've achieved enough in your life, you realize that these things didn't satisfy you anyway, so you start seeing through the illusion. So you can do this by cultivating simplicity and minimalism in your life. And Jesus said a lot about this. Matthew chapter 19, verse 21. If you would be perfect, go, sell what possessions you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and come follow me. So that is available to you. This is kind of like the van life mentality. If you realize that consumerism isn't fulfilling you, you can sell all your stuff, become a monk, a nun, a priest, and the church will provide for you, and you can get closer to God. So if you would be perfect, that's what Jesus is saying. But you're probably not perfect, and that's probably not the path for you. If it is, if that's your vocation, then that's great. That is pretty much the best thing you can do. But for a lot of people, that isn't the case. So if you just look at how Jesus lived his life, he's the perfect example. He wasn't chasing material wealth. He wasn't chasing these things. He was focused on and prioritized what truly matters, which was relationships, purpose, inner growth, helping other people. His life wasn't cluttered by possessions. So it's the perfect example. We know what to do. Then we got Matthew chapter 16, verse 26. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? And you might have noticed this. The more you try and chase after these things, something's missing. That emptiness isn't going away. It's just being temporarily kind of diminished because you get this hit. You can explore generosity as a spiritual practice as well, because often the feeling you get by giving somebody something is much more impactful than when you receive something. So Acts 20:35, it is more blessed to give than to receive. So if you think consumerism is about taking to fill a void, generosity is about giving from fullness. So you need to realize that you are okay as you are. You know, there isn't an emptiness. You don't need to acquire something to fill you up. You need to cultivate that grace and that energy, and then you can give from a full cup. You know, your cup runneth over. Something I learned from the book Your Money or Your Life by Vicky Robin is to learn what your point of enough is. You know, she speaks about what you need, that's enough, and then anything above that is a luxury. So if you're chasing these things that you don't actually need, then you're voluntarily entering into slavery, and you want to be grateful for what you've got and cultivate that contentment so that you don't desire that extra thing, and that will give you a tremendous amount of freedom. So Eckhart Tolle speaks about this, the power of now. You already have everything you need. You're already enough. And if you think about it, look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You probably already have fulfilled most of these things. I'm not cold, I'm not hungry, I'm not tired, I'm not lonely. I'm basically all right. You know, I'm done. I don't need these extra things. So cultivate contentment. And there are a few actionable steps you can do. Track what you consume. Take a day off of buying and see how you feel. Like, you don't buy anything today and see if you feel a lot worse or a lot better. Practice daily gratitude. Let go of one item a day that you haven't used in like 3 months. Just let it go, give it away to somebody. Unplug from technology, get back into reality, and define what enough really means to you. Do you need a Porsche? Do you need what your neighbour's got? Or are you happy with what you already have? Because happiness is accepting the present moment exactly as it is. Not even happiness. I don't think the goal in life is to be happy. It's peace. And you have peace when you're at one with what is. So this just requires faith in God. If you have faith, you will be at peace. So I invite you to assess your situation. Are you a slave? And are you chasing things that don't serve you? Is consumerism, are you kind of wrapped up in this game? And I invite you to play a different game. Become content, have faith, be present. Hope that helps. Speak to you soon.